red. It's really exciting to see you all in person and see so many red shirts in the crowd, and hopefully via the live stream as well. We are really excited to be kicking off the 2022 United Way campaign. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Glenn Banda, and I'm the Executive Director of United Way Guelph Wellington Dufferin. And I'm joined today by Patricia Trissini, who is our 2022 campaign chair. I was kind of teasing her on Monday at our flag raising because she was introducing herself as excited to be getting involved with United Way. I think that's a bit of an understatement. She is our campaign chair. She sits on our board of directors. She's on our Women United executive. She's a donor and a great ambassador for the organization. And we're so thrilled to have such a passionate volunteer involved, and I'm really excited to be working with her again on this year's campaign. So I'll turn it over to Patricia.
Thank you. When do I sleep? My husband cooks, that's the answer, so I get to sleep. I'm really thrilled and honored to be here as well, and as Glenn said, it's so great to see folks in person and hopefully via live stream. Hello and good afternoon. I'm Patricia Trissini. I actually do have a day job at the University of Guelph, and I want to thank them as well for allowing me the space and the time to volunteer with such an important community organization. But today we'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're gathered on treaty lands steeped in rich Indigenous history. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all generations of people who've taken care of this land for thousands of years and for sharing it with us today, but really primarily the Indigenous people on Turtle Island. At United Way, we serve the communities of Guelph, Wellington County, and Dufferin County, and we recognize and deeply appreciate those who have great historic connection to these places. And that includes the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Chinantati, and the Attawandaron people. We also recognize the contributions Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples have made to this land. We acknowledge the historical oppression and violence Indigenous people have endured and the inequalities many continue to experience. At United Way, we accept, and that includes all of you, we accept that it is our responsibility to hold ourselves accountable, and we commit to taking action to eliminate systemic racism and create a more inclusive and resilient community. In the wake of the horrific events last week at James Smith Cree Nation and Weldon, Saskatchewan, we recognize that intergenerational trauma continues to plague Indigenous communities across Turtle Island. Whether you are staff, volunteer, donor, and create community member, we'd like to commit to supporting local Indigenous organizations with their efforts to decolonize their communities and support Indigenous health, well-being, and healing. Recognizing that we're gathering both in person and virtually, and you could be gathering from any place across Turtle Island or beyond today, I would just like to invite you to consider for a moment the space you take up on these lands, right rooted here, physically on these lands and in this space. The collective responsibility that we have to telling the stories of our histories, of our work together, our volunteerism, our people, with honesty, integrity, and a purposeful recognition that there is still more work to do.
Today we are celebrating the start of this 82nd Guelph Wellington Dufferin United Way campaign. That's pretty incredible. That marks 82 years of us coming together to raise funds for complex community issues. 82 years of monitoring those important needs, and 82 years of ensuring that those that are most vulnerable in our community have the support that they need. It's a long-standing tradition of community members coming together to solve complex issues and support the many individuals that need our support, including all of you today that are continuing to rally together and support our grandparents, parents, our friends, neighbors. Tens of thousands of people each year are impacted thanks to your generosity and volunteerism. At United Way, we are proud of the work that we do, and we extend our appreciation to all of the people that make our work possible. We have many incredible community champions, and I'd like now to introduce one of those, Mayor Cam Guthrie, who is going to bring words on behalf of the city.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here and bring greetings on behalf of the city and council. Thank you also for providing me with a red shirt in my size, which, as we all know, is size husky. So thank you very much. Boy, I cannot state any more than this year how much it is all. Thank you so much for allowing me to come for this campaign. As I've seen, I guess just because I am interacting with so many different organizations and people across the city, the need is so very great. And I want to just encourage everybody that over the last few years, can't believe I'm saying few years because that's how long it's been now with the pandemic and coming out, I know we've gone through the grind, but we've got to keep pushing forward together and try to encourage each other and support each other and try to light a little bit more of a fire under each of us, including myself, to make sure that we are trying to give back to our community. And through United Way, it's just so easy. Lots of people you can see events that you have that you can be involved in, but even if you're at work or at City Hall as an example, you can have a pay that's taken off of your paycheck every week. That stuff adds up. And at the end of the day, you are literally changing people's lives in our community for the good work that United Way does. So many charities rely actually on United Way. And so I would ask the community really to consider not only yourselves by giving, but tell others, encourage others, light that fire under other people so that we can really see a massive impact of change and positivity for the organizations who are serving the people that they are a part of in our community. Guelph can do it. 100% Guelph can do it. That's what we're all about. So it doesn't even make me feel like I have to try to encourage you. But as the mayor, I just want you to know that we can really see some of the real true needs and our impact of change. If we could all pull together at this time, rally around United Way. I know will make such a huge difference. And then we'll hear about those stories at the end. And that's when it all comes together for all of us. So I was a part of that life change. I was a part of making that event happen. That family now has food. That's the kind of life change stories that are so very important that I all want us to be a part of here at the end of the campaign. So I know we can do it. So let's do it. And let's give another round of applause to everyone that's so involved with making it happen. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Cam. Cam is a huge supporter of United Way, and we're always grateful to have him on the campaign trail, and I'll have to send him a link directly for his donation to come off his paycheck, barring any unforeseen circumstances, I guess. Excellent. You heard that. I think we got that on tape. Hopefully, we got that on tape. Events like today are also made possible through generous commitment of our sponsors, and we've got many long-standing sponsors and new sponsors coming to the table. We encourage many of you to consider, if you're in a workplace, more sponsorship, the better for our events and other things. But right now, I'm really delighted to thank our title sponsor, the Cooperators, for their support today, and welcome Leslie Christodoulou, who's the VP of Corporate Financial Services. She's the co-chair of the Cooperators United Way campaign and sits on our Women United committee as well. Great champion. Leslie, come on up. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Patricia and Glenna as well. It is a pleasure to be here. I think it's, it can't be understated, as Cam noted, it's been a tough few years. And as I think about and reflect upon the United Way and the continued and long-standing partnership that the Cooperators has had in this community and communities beyond, it really strikes at the core of our being, why we exist. The Cooperators exist to support the financial security of its clients, Canadians, and our communities. And so that last piece of our vision, it's ingrained right in there, and so it truly is fundamental to who we are as an organization, being involved so deeply with the United Way. One comment as I reflect on some of Cam's comments and some early comments from Glenna and Patricia is we are in a radical recovery, and I love that sentiment. And it is a tough time. It's a tough time for all of our partners in the community, but also each and every one of us. We're facing some very tough times from an economic perspective. Being a finance background, I probably have too much information on, what inflation and CPI is doing in our communities. But that's why I love that this existing campaign, this 2022 campaign, is grounding itself in part in focusing on the number of donors that we have in our that we have as part of this campaign. It's not the big dollars. The big dollars are very important, don't get me wrong, but a small donation from a new donor that now recognizes the impact that small donation has as it multiplies through a community is critical. It's also the investment of time and your talent in the community, attending an event, buying a raffle ticket. It's all acts, big and small, that will make the difference and culminate into big change for the community. So encourage every one of you to think about change that you can make, big or small, and get out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leslie. We are incredibly grateful for the continued support of the cooperators and all of our workplaces and volunteers who have continued to support United Way. As we've mentioned, through some pretty difficult times, we simply could not do our work without you, so thank you. As Leslie said, or actually pretty much I think everyone has said this, that the last few years have definitely brought hardships, and none of us really saw them coming. Many of us hoped that when COVID was over, we would go back to normal, but the reality is it hasn't. Economic pressures are increasing for many families due to rising costs of groceries and the housing situation. The pressures are real for many of us. Marginalized communities are continuing to face discrimination and racism. Mental health struggles continue to impact many of us, from our children and youth through to seniors. I read just yesterday that there's a new rage index that was done across Canada, and the majority of Canadians feel anger. 83% of Canadians feel anger when they see the news each day. That is incredible. It really demonstrates the types of things that we are all facing each day, and I think we're all seeing it in our day-to-day interactions. Our frontline agencies, many of you are here today, are continuing to work tirelessly to serve an increasing demand for services. As those economic pressures increase, so does the demand on services and the challenges to fundraise, so it's a bit of a perfect storm. Dominica said this to me earlier this week, that our nonprofit sector didn't get that sourdough bread phase of the pandemic. They've been working tirelessly for years, and that pressure continues just to keep the doors open to provide the services that we need to provide in our community. Many people are tired, but they're still showing up and providing those services in our community. So at this time, I would just love to take a moment to give a round of applause to all of our service providers that are joining us here today.
So as a parent, a mom, a daughter, a neighbor, a sister, a volunteer, I've also seen the impact on our community, and like many of you, I'm sure, right in my own home. Our lives have changed. We've heard it said already, but I'll say it again, in so many ways the past couple of years, and it is our community that brings us together and that is so important in weathering what we're faced with day in and day out and year in and year out. I've never been more proud to live in a community than I was during COVID. That sounds kind of funny, right? But the way people stepped up, that's you in this room, that's you joining us on the live stream, that's the team at United Way. It's something that will stand out for me long after I remember whether I had a mask on in 2020, 2021, and 2022. Frankly, it's the pride of knowing that we came together to support those that are most vulnerable in our communities, and also each other. Those of us that weren't necessarily vulnerable financially, but were vulnerable because of isolation, mental health, and other things. United Way itself was no different. Glenna said it, they did not get the sourdough moment, right? But they responded with compassion. Each staff member and volunteer responded immediately. In one of the first week of the pandemic, it was, what can we do? Not retreating in any way at all. They were granted because of the incredible understanding and respect that United Way has across our country, but particularly here locally, with $1.1 million to distribute in emergency financial need. If we want to see our communities come together in a way that sees everyone thrive, as Cam has said, we must take action now. We must come together again now. We have to use that same sense of urgency and energy that we had when the pandemic began to address the root causes, those root deep causes in our community that are systemic and that impact us right across the system. Glenna.
That's so true, Patricia. We know that we can't go back to normal. We've been saying that, for the past year and a half, or Simply Recover. We definitely need the radical recovery. Today we're here at Control V, and this is a virtual, for those of you that don't know, it's a virtual arcade. And we're here because we don't want to have to escape to a virtual reality for our community to be better. We can do better, and we can create a reality where everyone in our community gets to thrive. So today, we are recommitting to taking action on a radical recovery and building that reality where everyone can thrive. Our new community impact strategy is focused on solutions and supports that address current and deepened challenges and build trust with community partners. We're focused, as Patricia said, on addressing root causes of poverty and shifting our solutions to create systemic change. We're ensuring that families have the financial, social, and personal assets that they need to improve their quality of life. And we're looking forward to talking about that shortly with our guest speaker. We're building strong and supportive and inclusive communities that are vital for all of us to thrive by funding critical mental health services and community-based programs. And we're ensuring that children and youth have the opportunity to recognize their limitless potential by giving them the tools to build emotional resilience and well-being through a really awesome new service network of 10 agencies in Guelph and Wellington.
I'm tired too, Cam, right? We're all tired. We've said it. But I've been so impressed with the commitment of the United Way staff, volunteers, donors, as we work collectively toward these new strategies. Most of all, I'm really proud of how the strategy builds on what we've all learned over the last few years, that we can and that we must solve local issues with local solutions led by those people right here in our community that know deeply what the needs are. I'm really thrilled to see priority and focus given to addressing the inequities that marginalized groups experience. We've got a new equity, diversity, and inclusion funding stream, really to create that community where everyone feels they belong and are valued for their differences. There are so many great new programs being funded here, and if you're following us in the news, you'll see that. If you follow us in social media, you'll see it. Many of those things get pushed out, but if you don't know about them, just a couple, they're really looking to build space and connection and cultural support for Indigenous communities, back again to that health and well-being and healing. Training for Arabic women to learn culinary and food safety skills, new immigrants to our community, and racialized trauma-based mental health support for Black youth. I'm over to Glenna. I agree, Patricia. Glenna agrees with me. Isn't that great?
I do.
We always agree with each other, so it's a good working relationship.
I'm also really proud of the new funding streams. It's been difficult with the limitations we have had due to fundraising, but we've done our best to focus on the most urgent needs and strategy, and we really had to shift our strategy due to the realities that we are facing today. So whether you've been a supporter of United Way for years or are a community member who cares, we think that you will see a re-energized and newly collaborative way of making lasting positive change in our community. I'm pleased now to introduce Jaya James, Executive Director of Hope House. Hope House serves vulnerable people in Guelph, the unhoused and housed, the employed and the unemployed, those suffering new, bewildering setbacks, and those dealing with chronic, more complicated issues of poverty. United Way has supported United Way has supported Hope House and their food security programs for a number of years. And we've always been really impressed with their forward thinking and willingness to work together as a community. Jaya has been working together with our United Way team and other community partners who have supported housing stability and food insecurity work to look at new ways of collaborating across our community to ensure large-scale system change. I'll invite Jaya up now to share a few words.
I'm just adjusting my height. It was much more effective than me touching anything with a microphone. So I'm really thrilled to be here today. Some of the words that have been coming across about the radical recovery, and that not more than just that Guelph can do it and Wellington County and Dufferin can do it, I have full confidence that we will do it. So a major focus in Hope House's programming has really been around food. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about that, but also as our broader community discussions about food. And over the last little chunk here, we just looked at April from this year to the end of August. We have served more than 5,400 adult visits and 2,800 kid visits during that time frame. We've done more than 250,000 in groceries, and this is 38% higher than the same time frame last year. And when I talk to all the other food security organizations across the city, and I can see many of them here, and I'm sure many of them are online, they're going to tell you the exact same thing. There's been a real spike in the last year. And just one example, I was talking to Tom from The Seed, and I almost feel like those two words are synonymous now, Tom from The Seed. He said that they're getting $50,000 of donated product a week, and they're having no trouble distributing it across the food security networks across Guelph, Wellington, and Dufferin. And that to me is a bit mind-blowing, that they can get $50,000 to their organization that's distributing, because I know that Hope House, and I know Chalmers, and I know the North End Harvest Market and the Guelph Food Bank, all these other groups also are getting donated product coming in. And so we're still requesting more through these networks. But more than stats, I kind of want to talk to you about change. And so you're going to have to follow me for a little bit, but I'm promising you this is all going to tie together. So my fridge died last week, and so I came home from work, and sitting on the front porch was my husband, and he had a mission. We were going to go out, and that night we were going to buy a fridge, because as all of you would know, you cannot live without a fridge for very long. And we have a car so we can go to different places, and we had the money to buy a fridge, and as long as you don't ask our children, we're two intelligent individuals who are capable of making this decision. After we got home, one of them told us we should have taken him because he knows more about fridges than we do. So we went out and we started to go from store to store to buy this fridge. But as we were doing it, I realized I'm really struggling with making this decision, because the logical part of my brain is going, you should be looking at consumer reports and doing research. What about this brand and model? And have you really talked to anybody about this and really thought this through? But there's no time, because my fridge is dead, and if I don't get a fridge soon, everything in my house that I have in my fridge right now that's kind of cold is going to rot. So needless to say, 15 minutes before the store closed, we called back and said, yes, we're buying this fridge, and they delivered it on the weekend, and I can tell you it's now working beautifully, so that's great. But as I was thinking about this, I was thinking, why was it so difficult to make this relatively simple decision? And it came down to one simple thing, that when you're making decisions under pressure, your capacity, your ability to think it through is reduced. And they've done studies on this, and they'll tell you your IQ actually drops. And so when we're under pressure, it's harder for us to make decisions. And so right now, you might be looking across the city and going, why is there, when there is a job posting on every corner, people who are unemployed aren't working? Or why did this person just spend money on a smartphone when they need food? Or why is there all these different organizations doing what looks to me to be the same thing? Couldn't we do this more efficiently? And I would say it comes down to me one simple thing why we see these things happening. It is change takes energy. And right now, and for a long time, people and organizations have been lacking the energy to make the change. So this is where I get excited, because I think this is where United Way comes in. United Way has this process that they did in the last year or so. So they started us off in last spring, which is hard to believe that it's a year ago now, but it was a year ago. They got a whole bunch of people from across the city of Guelph, organizations, donors, business community, government, and they sat us around a virtual table and they made us talk about what we wanted to do, where we wanted to go, what should the United Way be doing? And one of the things that came out of that was this term, the radical recovery. And another thing that came out of that was something that I loved, was one of the people, and I can't remember who it is, so whoever you are, thank you, because this has resonated with me for like the whole year since, is that the United Way creates a United Way. Their job is to take all of us that exist in Guelph, Wellington, and Dufferin, and the United Ways in other districts, their communities, and get us to think about things together and create this United Way. So they did that, and they developed the strategic plan that Glenna referenced, and we're very appreciative of the work they've done there, but they didn't finish there. The next thing they did was then, based on those pillars that they decided on, they again got people all around the table again to have those hard, difficult conversations about how we're going to change. And back to what I was saying before, change takes energy. And so how do they give us energy? They committed to bringing money to the table, not 1-year funding, not 2-year funding, not even 3-year funding. They said, if you guys collectively can come to agreement, we're committing to 5 years of funding. And then they said, we know that these decisions you're making to make things different are going to be complex and are going to take time to work through. So we're going to work on an annual plan as we work through and learn from each thing that we do each year. And so that's the process they've done. But even more than that, they refuse to let us sit in our boxes. They refuse to let us do things the way we've always done them. They brought in a facilitator who pushed and prodded with Colleen. She's very good at that, by the way. Subtle, but she's very good at that. And said, nope, we got to do more. Nope, we can do better. And so they pushed and prodded us until we were able to imagine a bigger future, a brighter future, a future that we were excited about going towards. And then the energy came back. And so now we're, Hope House and many, many other organizations are working on in the food security realm, and we're looking at collaborative projects. How can we do things together? I know similarly, because they were kind of at the same table but separated a bit in those Zoom rooms, because they have those breakout rooms, they did similar things on the housing, and I know there's other pillars as well that work's done. So to me, that's the exciting thing about the United Way, and that's the exciting thing about what we're celebrating today as we kick off a new campaign, is that we as a community, this big community of Guelph Wellington Dufferin, have said that this isn't good enough. We're going to treat people with dignity and respect. We're going to find a place where every individual can belong and contribute, because I've never met someone who doesn't want to contribute, and we're going to do that together because we now have a United Way. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jaya. You just reminded me that, I don't know where my notes are, but it reminded me of a question that Sue from Sleeman asked at one of our last cabinet meetings, and it's that it's not like we have 5 years of funding sitting in the bank that we're distributing out over the next 5 years. So that's part of the motivation of our annual campaign, is that we're really excited about these innovative opportunities and building a stronger community, but we need to meet these targets each year so that we can fulfill those commitments. So that's something I hope, hearing about that innovative new strategy and new ways of working together, I hope that that's really helping motivate everyone to see how you can contribute to part of this collective strategy that is really building a community where everyone can thrive.
I've been a supporter of United Way since I worked at Zares on Aramasa Road at 16 years old. Truly, this is not your same old United Way anymore, right? This is a new way of working and building community together with all of you here and all of you at home or at work or wherever you're joining us from. I know United Way is ready, and I know our community is ready to see change as well. So let's once again do what we do best in Guelph, in Wellington, and Dufferin County. All of you, volunteers, workplaces, donors, agencies, care deeply about the people in our community. And I know you're ready to change those lives that we talked about here, that Cam has talked about, Jaya, Leslie, Glenna, all of us, right here and in pursuit of a radical recovery. When we work together, anything is possible. I really believe that. I believe in United Way. I believe that my dollars make a real material difference in the lives of the people in our community right here. Every action, Leslie said it, your time, your talent, your treasure, no matter how big, no matter how small, makes a difference and fuels that change. Together, we will champion a shared responsibility for social good and help all who live in Guelph, Wellington, and Dufferin not just survive, but thrive. We're looking forward to a great campaign. Those of you that knew me last year or were last year, I've got my Go Faster red shoes on. I bought them specifically for this campaign. There were not enough things to get me out and about because we were still kind of halfway locked down. We'll come anywhere you want us to come and talk about United Way, and so will many of the volunteers and the staff. I know they will. So I'll put my red shoes on, or any color shoes you want me to put on, and come out to see you. We really want to make this radical recovery work. If you joined us today virtually, thank you. And we're going to end the live stream here. And if you've got VR at home, I guess go and play some VR at home. But I want to thank you on behalf of Glenna, the board, the entire United Way community for taking time to log in during your busy day. I want to thank all of you for coming in person and joining us. We can't wait to see everybody on the campaign trail, whether virtually or in person. And if you did join us in person, there's a reason we're here at Control V and have the red happening. You can stick around a while longer and maybe line up behind Mayor Cam, who has promised he's going to strap on the VR glasses. He loves his social media, so this is your opportunity to put a little radical and virtual into our recovery. So thank you all for coming. I want to give one more round of applause to everybody here and at home and at work. Thank you so much. Let's do this. Come on, Cam, let's go.